a lot of us grew up watching Chacha Ji and reading a lot of travelogue by the amazing Mustansar Hussain Tarar साहब. और आज मुझे लगता है कि tables have turned, रोल रिवर्सल हो गई है. आज मैं उनका इंटरव्यू ले रहा हूँ और मुझे याद है जब मैंने उनकी फोटोग्राफी की थी अपनी बुक के लिए कोई 8 साल पहले. It was such an honor and it was such an amazing experience. और thank you so much Mustansar साहब for being on my show.
Thank you. I started my photographic career, so-called, while I was in class 6. Bought my first camera from Zadi Saab on the mall. It was a baby brownie, and I took a lot of photographs. And then onwards, I always had a camera. And I never turned fully towards photography because my passions were different. I used photography for my travels, for my characters, for my landscape, so on and so forth. In the meantime, I befriended a lot of artists, and I think very few people had the honor of having been painted by such famous artists. I had the honor. For instance, Saeed Akhtar, I think at present day, he's the greatest artist in Pakistan. I think at least 5 or 6 portraits he painted of me, along with the dust covers of my different books. Mubin Ansari, the young fellow, I never took him very seriously, naturally. He was very junior to me. He came around in the Martin Park with his camera, and he took snaps, different snaps. And he said he wanted to make my portrait. And I mean, it's quite normal that people come there and they want to snap me. Then he came to my Gulberg house, and he was trying different angles. And again, I was slightly tired. And then he went outside my study, and where I was writing something on my study table, in front of me was a window with glass. He went on the other side and he made a portrait of mine through that glass. Now, that was a very novel idea. And the glass gave the portrait a surrealistic effect, which was mesmerizing. And I don't think anybody else has taken such an effective portrait as Mubin Ansari did.
Thank you so much for the very kind words. And, it's so incredible to hear about Shahid Zaidi Saab. I'm a very big fan of his work, and I'm a huge fan of Saeed Akhtar Saab as well. I was a student, and I will always remember the painting that he made of you. One thing I would like to say is, as someone who travels a lot as a photographer, uh, I've seen your name everywhere, all across Pakistan. And I remember the first time I went to Shimshal, it was during the winters, and it was absolutely lonely. The sun sets early,
Yeah.
there are no mobile signal there. And until somebody sat down next to me and he said, Shimshal be misal. And yeah, I remembered that came from you. It made me
Yeah.
feel less lonely. It made me feel more at home. And what was the whole journey? How did you coin the term?
I wrote about 17 travelogues of the northern area of Pakistan. And I discovered some places. When I said I discovered, I don't mean that nobody knew about them. People in Europe and America knew about their existence, but only the mountaineers and the professional trackers. But in Pakistan, most of people were ignorant about their existence. For instance, Ferry Meadows. I went to Ferry Meadows more than 30 years back when there was no road there. And I stayed there for 3 or 4 days. And my book, Nanga Parbat, describes that visit of mine. And then the fairy meadow caught on, and now, unfortunately, it's very much populated because of my book. And at times, I feel that I've done an injustice. I should have not written about that place. It wouldn't have been spoiled, so commercialized. But that's how the world is. So they named one of the very small pond-like lake, and they call it Tarar Lake. And there are other vintage points which are named after me. And so I went to different parts of northern area, and I tried that I should go someplace where few people go.
That's very beautiful to know, especially for photographers who are here today. You see a lot of photographers, travel vloggers. I think a lot of people should realize that a lot of information actually came from you. And, thank you for that because we as photographers, we as travelers owe so much to you. And you have seen so much history around the world since you wrote Nikle Teri Talash Mein and Nanga Parbat and Hunza Dastan. How different do you think the world is today from your experience?
Well, things change, and it is a natural process of nature that they do change, they do not remain the same. I've seen part of history. For instance, I've seen the partition of India, 1947. I was 7 years old. Then I saw the unfortunate separation of East Pakistan, a great blunder by us. I mean, that is part of our history, unfortunate history. I went to Beirut, because there is a blast in Beirut right now. It's not a terrorist blast, but some sort of um, some chemical exploded there, as you know, on the port, and more than 150 people died. I went to Beirut in 1975, basically to join PLO. I'm not a very brave person, but I felt so much for Palestinian cause that I wanted to contribute something to it. We had ideals. That is the difference between our age and this age. As you said, that is it any different? Actually, it's totally different. It's a new era where there are no ideals except riches and except corruption, except power. I don't see those idealistic ideas or those people who are totally committed to their cause. I don't see very many people.
Having enjoyed several career choices over the years, in which role have you felt the most at home?
I didn't have very many careers. I have just one permanent career, and that is of being a vagabond. I am a vagabond, and at heart, and my attitude towards this world is of somebody who's not here permanently. He has come here as a passing phenomena. I'll pitch my tent somewhere, spend the night, and then go away. So I did not have any career. If you can call media a career, yes. I had to run my kitchen. I had to run my life. I had to earn something. So I did media for about 50 years. And fortunately, because my books sell for the last 25, 30 years, I'm supposed to be the bestseller fiction author in Pakistan. So, but I don't call them careers. They're my profession with passion, yes. But my real career, in the broader sense, is being a vagabond at heart.
You are right. Career is a very limiting sort of a word. That's very beautifully said. And there's one thing I've been very curious about, being famously known as Chatterjee, and your love for children and the programming. What are your thoughts on um, children programming today in Pakistan or lack thereof?
Children called me Chachaji because I was very simple, down to earth, and I spoke to them like a relative or as an elder, and not as an anchor person who is on top of the world, and he is know all, and he thinks everybody is illiterate, and he tries to teach them.
Mm.
There are a lot of anchors that try to teach. They say they want to educate. I say to them, why don't you educate yourself first? Because they are not educated. Most of the anchors I see, they are not educated at all. And when I say educated, I don't mean the degrees. I mean worldwide. They haven't seen the world. They haven't read. They haven't experienced. They haven't seen Pakistan. I mean, you bring me a anchor person, and I'll ask him to tell me from Lahore to Rawalpindi names of 10 railway stations. They won't know about the canals of Pakistan, about the fields of Pakistan, about the birds of Pakistan. Ask them what is the national bird of Pakistan. Very few people know that it is chakor. Number two, now the morning transmissions which are telecast on different channels. At that time, PTV was the only channel. People were almost forced to see it. I admit that. They had no option. It was a solitary confinement sort of thing. And there was only one small window from there they could see, and that was PTV. Now there are hundreds of windows and they can see them. So whatever is being shown or whatever is being telecast as morning transmission, most of them have some sort of element of my transmission because that was the first transmission and I did it for 8 years. But suppose I feel that people like them, so they're okay. I'm nobody to criticize. I never have nostalgia. You'll be amazed to know that at least I am one old man in Pakistan who does not have a nostalgia, who feels that the present is beautiful also. I'm enjoying my present also, the present Pakistan, the present generation. Generally, people say that, I mean, look at this generation. I mean, we used to do this and we used to do that. That was just because they had done nothing in their career. And they are jealous of the younger generation. Whatever younger generation is achieving, we couldn't even dream of it. So I do not have nostalgia of the old days. But the morning transmission, there is this lady, she used to do her morning show from Dubai. And she said that you're the father of all morning transmissions. I said, look here, maybe, but I see a lot of children here of morning transmission, and maybe one or two, but most of them are not mine. I've got nothing to do with them, I don't know from where they have come. They brand me as my father, but I'm not their father. So whatever is happening today, if it is pleasing the masses, I think it should be all right. I mean, I'm not there to object, but there's one thing I want to point out as far as media is concerned. Recently, Geo Television paid me a tribute. It was very kind of them to think about it, because under these circumstances, nobody thinks about literature, arts, music, anything at all. And they recorded 3 full episodes, Tarar Nama, about me. And the first episode went on air on Eid Day at prime time, 8 o'clock. And everybody was amazed that in rating, the official rating, it's not me or it's not Geo, the official rating came around that program, Tarar Nama, topped the rating on Eid Day. While there were a lot of glamorous shows going on, political discussions going on, and so on and so forth. Now, what does that prove? Geo is important. Maybe I am also important. But the real thing is that general people they are really interested in literature and arts, and they want to see those people who create, and they are not shown those people. In this country, I don't believe in the propaganda, the usual complaints that nobody bothers about the creative people, nobody bothers about painting, writing, writers, so on and so forth. People do, but they don't have any expression. Nobody expresses their sentiments. The television, the channels, they have a different agenda altogether. But people are admired for their literature, for their photography, for their painting, for everything. I mean, Zadi Saab's portrait exhibition was held in Alhambra. I also went there. And people were stunned to see those. I mean, the people, because the past, there was past, in the colonial past, he had revived, and they were surprised to see that in those times, Lahore was like this. So you photographers are actually the chronicler of history.
So, with Pakistan tourism reopening now after COVID, I believe
Yeah,
it opened over the weekend. And over
yeah,
the last couple of years, as it has opened, even religious tourism like Kartarpur, Buddhist monasteries,
yeah.
mandras across Pakistan. What advice would you have for future travelers as well as photographers?
I won't say anything about photographers, because the photographers and the trackers and the mountaineers, they don't care at all what, what is happening in that country. I mean, if it is in a worse condition, so much the better. They can cover the event. I mean, they'll go into Beirut and cover that explosion. So I'm not talking about, and the mountaineer will go to the mountains, because there is only, K2 is in Pakistan and it's not going to change places. Everest is in Nepal. So it's their compulsion. But the normal tourist from abroad, I mean, I can talk on and on. I don't think I'll suggest that the European American tourists should come to Pakistan right now. I mean, if I was an American or a European, I'll go someplace else, which is more liberal. For a Turkey, for instance, I mean, Turkey, for all its conservatism, has beaches and has all sorts of entertainment value attractions. You can go to Morocco and so on and so forth. But Pakistan is, as far as tourism is concerned, I mean, they say that, somebody said that, I was connected with tourism. I was in the board of governors and so on and so forth, but nothing happened there, you see. It was so bureaucratic. And recently, I was shocked to hear the best possible representation of Pakistan was PTDC motels. I have traveled and I've stayed in most of those motels, and they were exemplary. Their service, their rooms, and it was amazing that this was a government-run organization, and they have their motels in the most scenic spots in the north. I mean, I won't go into details. And those motels are not only they're not hotels, they are monuments of Pakistan. I mean, for instance, if you have gone to Bisham, Bisham became known because of the motel. And people started going to Bisham or Rama Lake, or for that instance, Skardu Motel, K2 Motel. And you can see the history of mountaineering in that motel. So they are going to most probably disband it or something like that. I don't know why. Although Khan Sahib is a great fan of northern area, and once he came to my, I mean, he participated in discussion in my show, morning show, at least 3 times, twice as a sportsman, and once as a northern area enthusiast. And I still remember Colonel Sher Khan was with him. And I asked Colonel Sher Khan that, do you suggest any place where I can go this year? And he said, Tarar Sahab, you know more places in northern area than we northern people do. And he also told Khan Sahab about it. And Khan Sahab asked me, can you suggest any place? And I suggested Fairy Meadows. And I asked the same question. And his favorite area was near Burzal Pass, Minimug, and all those. So he's passionately into hiking. And he has a book also. Most probably you have seen his photographs of northern area and his travels. There used to be a book. I don't know why it hasn't been republished. And a person like that should have done a lot for tourism. I hope he does.
All what you have shared reaffirms that photographers indeed have a big role to play when it comes to telling stories, when it comes to telling projection of image. Mustansar Saab, thank you so much for
You're
being on
welcome.
my show. It's been an absolute pleasure. Inshallah, once travel allows proper traveling, I hope to come and see you in Lahore.
Inshallah.